this service gonna be today.
I know.
Looks good so far. We are live. What's up, everybody? You see my face on the Sunday, you know it's 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I hope everybody's doing good today. So while we are jamming, straight jamming to this song, it's called Turn It Up by something, Grandma Tick. I like this little song, right? It's got a
little vibe to it. I'm good.
It's got something to it.
It make you move.
Yeah, you can't help it. All right, so y'all share this out when y'all get to it. I know y'all coming. So share it. Hit like on it. All of that. Boy, this stuff is gonna make me cut a word. All right, so as y'all rolling in, I am so glad to have every single one of you here with us. Today, I am here with your favorite guest of mine, and might as well say my co-host. Let's be real. Shon speaks. What's going on, Shon?
Nothing much. Just enjoying today. Happy to be here.
I know that's
Happy
right.
to be here.
I'm glad you're here. What's up, Brandy? What's up, Michelle Hottie? Shell.
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing this Sunday?
This Sunday. Did you get some steps in, Shon?
I did not get any steps in today. So Courtney's gonna be really mad to me today. I didn't get any.
Look, I'm about to tag him right now. No,
yeah. He gonna be real upset with me today. I didn't get in it, but I try to get so many in during the week that that I can take a day if I want to.
There you go.
Right?
That's how you got to do it. I like the way you think. What's going on, Angelique? Angelique in the house. Burn,
what's up, there?
All right, so y'all look. Today we got a kind of like an interesting topic. I just put a little spin on what we typically do. We usually always have a thought, and we just go with that thought and just kind of expand upon it, seeing what I feel about it, what she feels about it, and what you guys feel about it. So today is no different. It's just that what we did. Rosalind's in the house.
What's up, Rosalind? What's going on?
Rose of the land, so I call her. So today what we did is we took a book by Fromm. The name of it is, and funny story, the name of it is The Art of Being. Actually, Rosalind's book club had a book, and I can't remember the name of it. It was like something of being, but she suggested it to me, and I downloaded the wrong book, which is the book me and Shon are talking about today. So, God don't make no mistakes, right? What's this? Christina Husky. I ain't seen Christina Husky since we lived on the same street.
What's up, Christina
Husky? What's going on? So listen, what we are talking about today is a book. The name of it is The Art of Being by Fromm. And it was a book that came into my path, as I said, by accident, but not by accident, because I feel like we draw to us those things that are just timely. So as I am reading this book, for like the 4th time, I ain't gonna lie. So I had a leg up on you. But it was on purpose because
I only found out about the book last night. All right, so this is the unfairness of this conversation today. And now that I know that she's read this book 4 times, and I've literally only got it last night, right? So that's a problem right there, Miss Carrie.
No, it's not. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because your comprehension is 4 times faster than
I don't know about that one, but I'll take it, but I don't know about that one.
Okay, speed 2.0. We're going to move on, though. So,
4 times, Carrie.
Listen, it is what it is now, right? I'm cracking up. Okay, so check this out. Regardless, this book has really expanded my brain around wanting. Just which is typically the basis of what living is. Because if you don't want to live, then you don't live, and there's cases of that, proven with suicide and degradation of oneself, all these things. So when we look at the art of being, this book kind of breaks down like, why do we want to live? When we decide what it is we want to live for, why do we want that? Is it good for us? Is it good for other people around us? And so on and so on, and then it spans into that. But part one is basically what I just described to you in a synopsis. So before we start, Shon, tell them a little bit about yourself, and then I want to hear, what was your initial just random thought process after
about the book?
Through that part?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I am Shon Speaks. My name is LaShawn Fleming Bruce, but I go by Shon Speaks on most platforms. And I'm a lawyer. I'm a podcaster, a speaker, writer, blogger. And I love to pump self-belief. People, I think if you start from a place of self-belief, you can grow from there. And it decreases the opportunity for people to just wholeheartedly just manipulate you on a continuous basis. So that is me. That is who I am. When I read this book between last night and today, Miss Carrie, what's up, Brandy? When I read this book, I will be honest with you, it's a hard read.
It's
Carrie.
a hard read. It really is a hard read.
Well, now that I know you read this book 4 times and you expected from late last night to right now for me to be like, give a summarization of the book and blah, blah, blah. Okay,
Can I
unfair.
One thing right quick?
Okay.
You thought I asked you to do way more than I asked you to do.
That's
and
true.
You were going to agree to that too. So, in all fairness, you wanted to read that book.
Okay. All right. True. But anyway, it was a hard read. I will say that it was not a very easy read. And even though we're really focusing on just part 1, chapter 1, I think we have it on the thing that we're doing chapter 2, but it's dependent upon whether you listen to the book or if you actually read the book will depend upon whether or not that's chapter 1 or chapter 2. But it's the chapter that's entitled The Art of Being, right, Carrie?
Yes.
Okay. So my take on it is exactly, if you've been listening to me any amount of time, then you know that I have this thing about needs and wants, and I always quote the Rumi poem. I'm gonna spare you today, but it's all about really that aligning of the needs and wants, so that you don't have this anxiousness about the things that you want, and you have a place of patience about yourself, about needs coming to you. And to me, that book, that chapter specifically on the art of being, because that's really what it's about. And when we start to learn how to live in our being, you don't have to be as anxious, right? You don't have to be as you don't have to force anything. So that's kind of the take of the book. It just was another layer. It was a perfect addition, in my arsenal of knowledge about wants and needs, because I think it is, as much as I'm not gonna lie, it is a hard read, and I'm not finished with it yet. But if you're willing to get through it and think about it, I think it's definitely a reading worth pushing yourself through, because it's going to expand you in a way that I don't know if I'm about to jump into it, but I like the in that chapter how he talks about the subjective happiness and the objective happiness, right? And because generally, because if I ask somebody, right, do you want to live? This is how the chapter kind of goes. They're going to say, of course I want to live, Shon. That's going to be a natural default thing. But then if I ask you how you want to live, and then that's when you start to kind of get into I want, love, I want money, I want power, right? And then the universal term that we all use and that we all will agree is that we want happiness. Right. And I love how he said that really that term is no good. Yeah. Because it means so many different things to so many different people during so many different times in your life, that happiness is really an abstract word. Right. And I just loved how he talked about that. But I'll turn it back over to you. Miss four times reading the book.
Whatever. For real though, like it is such a good read though. Please, I just offer the invitation over and over and over for you to read this book, because this book is really, really good.
Hey Carol. Hey Laurie.
You can push yourself through it. Oh, it is so worth it. It is so worth it. That right man in the house.
No.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm gonna let you go.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, because what I was going to talk about is he asked a question in the book, because we all want freedom, right? Uh-huh. We all want liberation. He uses the word liberation a lot in the book. And he poses a question of, well, he talks first about inner liberation and outer liberation, uh-huh. and how the focus on outer liberation has been manipulated through politics. Right? It's amazing how much he packs into that one chapter.
It's concentrated.
Yeah, it's very concentrated, and it's a lot. So that's what makes it a hard read, because you're like, okay, is he talking about this? No, he's talking about it. And then it all really goes together, because the whole point is understanding that there's this outer liberation that you want. There's this inner liberation that you want. But then when you live in a society with other people, it's easy to be manipulated to focus too much on inner liberation, or to be focused on outer liberation. Because from a political standpoint, like we live in America, and one of the things that we push is democracy, freedom. But how even in giving us democracy and verbalizing freedom, they've actually also taken away freedom. Right. So it's like, so you're really not as liberated as you think, right? Because what has happened is that the outer freedom that they gave you through political ideology, they've actually taken and given you sort of a type of imprisonment in your inner freedoms, so you don't have the inner liberation. And what he's saying is that you need both inner and I think am I being frozen? I hope I'm not, because I feel like I'm frozen a little bit.
It might be mine. I don't know.
No, I think
hear you just fine.
Okay. So I think so. He's saying that, okay, you need a balance. You need both inner liberation and you need outer liberation, but you also need to apply that in sort of your in with regards to nature, how life is, and self-awareness, and putting that all together and reconstructing that, right, in a way that you know, because I always say that one of the things that we have to learn how to do is live in the now. Absolutely. And the question that he asked, I wrote it down in my own words, is this: can we restore, reconstruct, or build up from its parts inner and outer freedom or liberation using reason as it relates to nature and self-awareness, right? Okay. So it's like,
one more time, Shon.
One more time. Can we restore, reconstruct, or build up from its parts inner and outer freedom or liberation using reason as it relates to nature and self-awareness? Now, the reason why I reworded the question, right, for me to have a deeper understanding, is he uses this phrase in there called manipulating intelligence, right? Manipulating intelligence. All right. Now, this is what we do. We all do it. I do it. Carrie does it. Everybody do it. Anybody listening on this call do it. We all do it. This is what we do. We say we want X, okay? And then at present moment, Y shows up, okay? And in that present moment, instead of us dealing with the fact that Y has showed up, despite the fact that we want X, we get frustrated with life. We go into an emotional tailspin, and we stay stuck fighting reality, using our intelligence, manipulating our intelligence, instead of dealing with the fact that, okay, I wanted X, but Y showed up. Let me deal with Y. Okay, so then what ended up happening is that instead of you using your intelligence for you, you're manipulating your intelligence, and now you are focused on an illusion, because the reality is that only Y showed up, X didn't show up. So if you bring an objective view of, okay, this is what nature, life, whatever you want to call it, has brought me. It's brought me Y. Let me deal with Y right now, because that's what's in my present. What we do is we manipulate intelligence, right, which then causes us frustration, which then creates layers of illusion, right, which then, instead of just wanting to live, which we all have, right, he calls it an impulse to live, we now have these thoughts and these passions because we're so frustrated that we wanted something different than what is presenting itself, right, that we are now not necessarily wanting to live. This is why sometimes people want to commit suicide or hurt themselves, etc., because they use their own mental manipulations to challenge what's presently in their life. And what I think Fromm is saying is that if we just say, okay, right now I can acknowledge my subjective desire for X. I know that it's there, but Y has showed up. Let me just bring myself to deal with Y. Let me use my reason to deal with Y, right? And I think that what happened is, over time, as you start to practice that more, you will find that you have the ability, the reason to be able to turn maybe Y into X, but not from fighting it, not from resisting what's present.
Right. Yeah, that's good. The thing that stood out to me is when you said, I had to write it down, like I gotta write it down so I can hang on. Because it's so good. Like, your brain is so good. You said you're not liberated as you think about it. Like, you're not as liberated as you think, right?
You're not.
You're not as liberated as you think.
You're not.
I'm going to say that one more time, and I'm going to say it different. You are not liberated as you think. When you get into that thinking mode, liberation leaves. It becomes so aloof. Because when we set that X and we get that Y, we start to interject thought. It's either why is Y here? Where is X? Or how do I make Y work? And then that mental thing starts. And it's like the piecing and the building and the everything other than being. That's why being is such an art, because it's so
liberating. It's elusive and it's liberating.
Liberation is elusive.
Yeah.
Because it's not something you can catch. It's not something that you can have. It's only something that you can be.
Exactly. But that's where the mental manipulations can come in there, though, because being around other people in society can get you so focused on wanting to possess.
Yeah.
Right. And so you end up focusing more on a possessing, which is more of having something. I gotta have this. Right. And so your whole entire existence of being, your whole quality of life, your whole willingness to live is dependent upon what you have. Right. So instead of the essence of you being good enough, so to speak, now it's, okay, I got to have the right car, I got to have the right lover, I got to have the right this, I got to have right that, all of those things, all of those halves. And if you take away some of those things from you, now who are you? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Right? And it's literally like learning to dance with life. Right? And that's being in that present, right? In that present of being and using a reason to deal with life. He uses this analogy about a rose, right? And he was saying that the potentiality of a rose is that it wants to be the best rose that it can be, right? And then the person that is the gardener of the rose want to create conditions so that the rose can fully grow. Right. But the rose doesn't create those conditions. It doesn't create the soil. It doesn't create the fertilizer that goes in the soil, right? But then there's conditions that's outside of the gardener and the rose's control. Right. How much sunlight comes in, how much water comes in. But it's almost, he was saying, that the rose knows that even if the gardener is not that astute and doesn't give enough light, the rose will grow in a crooked way so that it can get more light from the sun. Right. And he raises the question that if a rose can do that, so can humans do. Yes. Right? Oh, right? Yes. Yeah. Yes, indeed. So that's the reason why a lot of times you have to learn how to not fight life, right? Because it could very well be that you're growing crooked because the sunlight has to hit you that way in order for you to reach your fullest potential.
Right. Yeah, indeed. And that was one of the things that really struck me. And like, as you're talking to, I'm like, she's leading right into what I got. Lean on in, Shon. Lean on in. But it's like, because you started with that happiness piece. And this part of the book says, but most would probably agree in the statement that what they want is happiness. But then the degree of happiness is ever changing, not just from person to person, but from day to day for one person. Because what made me happy when I was 10 or 20 or 30 doesn't make me happy now. Exactly. So not only are we trying to grasp something, but we grasp something that's ever changing moment to moment. So we cheat ourselves out of so many moments, which is what we were talking about the other day. How many moments were you somewhere other than where you were? Why were you there? And you spent so much time in places that doesn't exist really in reality. So I started thinking about like just happiness in general. Okay, so when you look at just human nature to want things, to want to be pleased, to want to be fulfilled, that always is a stipulation of something. So if the stipulation isn't right, then you can't be happy. And I think that's a sad world to live in. So you're telling me all circumstances has to be right all the time, which they never are. They're never going to be. And that's the stipulations for me to be happy? That just can't be. And that's why Fromm is talking about that art of being. Because when we let anything, the ebbs and the flows, just do whatever they need to do in order for life to present itself the way it sees fit, and me stop, complaining about it, that I can really truly receive everything as like a spiritual expansion. Yeah. So this part because one of the things, I explain for people who came in late, we're talking about The Art of Being. It's a book by Eric Fromm, and I read it 4 times. Shon read it once. Oh God, it's so funny. And we both
not funny here.
It is funny. We both just picked the concept that kind of stood out to us the most. So we've been kind of going around like the premise of part 1, which is what we're discussing today. And I'm going to read the excerpt that really, really did it for me. Like when I tell you it did it for me, you can ask Angelique over here. I said, it's almost like it was a spiritual orgasm. Like I was like,
oh, wow.
Oh my God. Like this made so much sense. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's just ridiculous. Okay. So
I'll eager to know what it is.
Right. Okay. So just as liberation has been distorted in industrial society, so too has the concept of reason. Since the beginning of the Renaissance, the main object that reason has tried to grasp was nature, and the marvels of techniques was the fruits of the new science. But man himself ceased to be the object of study, except more recently in the alienated forms of psychology and anthropology and sociology. More and more, he was degraded to a mere tool for economic goals. And I was like, and I can't speak for nobody else. For me, that is why I have always, in any instance, if I have had an instance at any time in my life where I was not happy, it was not because I didn't possess happiness. It was because I was wasting my time trying to find something other than myself. Because it's not, if I'm so focused on the production of things outside, the advancements of things outside, the beauty of things outside, that I've lost the art of being, because it only requires me. It only requires me. Whatever shows up today only requires me. Because if I show up, everything shows up. If I don't show up, I ain't got to worry about it no more. But if I'm showing up, I can only come from me, not from other people, other things, other possessions. If a bird poops on my head, you know what I mean? Like, are you really upset about that? Because the world orchestrated the bird had to poop. It didn't say, "Here comes Carrie." You know, like,
there was no intention behind it.
Right,
it just
right.
Yeah.
It just happened.
But I want you to reread that again, though, because I think that, because it is a hard read, so I know it's even harder if you're listening to it and you haven't even read the chapter. So read it again.
Indeed. Just as liberation has been distorted in industrial society, so too has the concept of reason. Since the beginning of the Renaissance, the main object that reason has tried to grasp was nature, and the marvels of techniques was the fruits of the new science. But man himself ceased to be the object of study, except more recently in the alienated forms of psychology and anthropology and sociology. More and more, he was degraded to a mere tool for economic goals. And that part right there where it says, but man himself ceased to be the object of study, except in the more recent, like when it's talking about psychology, anthropology, and sociology, we only study to figure out what's wrong with people. So if that's what everyone's focused on, guess what's being amplified?
What's wrong?
Yeah. It's, and when you really think about it, and we all like to say like Rawson say, cliches, where energy goes, energy grows. But collectively, what are we focused on?
Yeah, and we agree to do it, even though we say one thing, but we agree to do another, right? And it's because we bought into sort of an outer liberation that is actually an inner imprisonment.
Oh yeah. Because
we're being used as economic tools, but we bought into that, right? Which is why we all go to work. We all try to, drive the best, look the best, etc. We bought into that, right?
Yeah. Gladly most of the time, because we look good and we feel good and we smelling good. We all the goods.
We're all the goods.
Good. What about that good, that inner good? Because it's so easy, not easy. It is so obvious that we need to break chains that binds us. If someone chained me to this table, I know I need to be free. But as he said in that book, what about the chains we don't see? What about the constructs that's been put on us? Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that's part of the problem, is that the inner chains are hard to see. If I'm speaking freedom, if I'm speaking liberation, right? But what I'm speaking in freedom and liberation is actually also your imprisonment. But this time it's not a physical imprisonment. It's not chains that you can see, outer chains. It's the inner chains, right? It's the fact that you feel like you got to make more money. It's the fact that you feel like, okay, I know that this is what's happening, but this is what I want. So I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to, check his phones. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to live in the illusion, right? Instead of dealing with the reality. And we do that. We do that to ourselves, not realizing that we're causing our own frustrations, and we're perpetuating an inner imprisonment, unaware that we're imprisoning ourselves.
Yeah. And it's layer after layer after layer, and it's some scars that I can't help but talk about all the time. Is because all the experiences that we've had in life, we let dictate how we interpret the current moment.
Okay, because so stop. Because you love.
I gotta cut this ring light off. It is literally like making me want to spaz out right now. Whew. Okay.
Now you're done.
I feel good.
Okay,
Good.
So you always use this word of scars, and I think that sometimes you need to explain what you mean, or you at least use it as an example. I'm gonna see now that I've kind of read up on it based upon you, because you've used it so much. Yeah. It's like the example I think Michael Singer uses, or I think this is his example, where a scar is like if you're watching a television screen, and you have let's say you're watching a show, and you finish watching the show. And you're about to watch something else. And as you're about to turn to another channel to watch something else,
you go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. And as you're changing the channel to about to watch something else, when you're starting to watch something else, the impression from the prior show is still on the screen. That is what you mean by a subscar, right? Okay. Now you can
impressions
take that away.
That have been pressed upon our internal being that causes almost an implosion of a personality that isn't ours. So if you know what implosion is, it blows from it blows in. So as we go through life and there's layers added to us, it shrinks us to a very compact thing, which is why anxiety feels the way it does, like you're just going to freak out, like you're going to explode. That's why anger comes out the way it does. That's why shyness make you feel like you're in a shell, because it's all that implosion. It's either a shrinkage or it's either a compact feeling. And the reason we feel that way is because there's so many layers of things and expectations and requirements that we've had throughout our lives that isn't necessarily things we have wanted to do or wanted to keep. It just happens. So that's why we have phobias. That's why you don't want to see your ex. If your ex gonna be there, you ain't going. Why?
Yeah.
Why? What does that have to do with you and your happiness and your security in yourself, or your belief in yourself, or your presence? You should do things because you want to do things as a even flow of exertion. It's an exertion. It's not a want anymore. It's just that's what happened. That's where I was drawn, and that's where I just ended up, more so than a dictation of how your life should be orchestrated as it folds in front of you. That was a lot, but I'm trying to put it together. So when you think about how many things you've been wrapped in, think about chicken. And everybody know, you go to KFC, right? That's the most popular one people know. You either want just original or you want the extra crispy. The more original you are, the easier it is to bite. The extra crispy might break. It might, if you got brittle teeth, watch out. But just imagine if they kept battering that and kept battering that and kept battering that, and then they cook it. And that hard, no one needs that much batter. Neither do we. That batter, those are some scars, because it's things that was just unnecessary that we just kept piling on and piling on and piling on. And the longer that they stay, the harder they get, and the harder they get, and the harder they get. We have to start cracking those layers away. So when something comes up in your life that stops you from being happy, because it's not upsetting you, it's actually the feeling of you not being happy is what it is. And we just had to name it something: frustrated, anxious, overwhelmed. You're just not as close to the original, and you're real extra crispy.
Yeah.
As you go ahead.
No, I was saying, so it's like if you for a long time held a certain position, and you were known as the person that had this position, and then something happened where you lost this position, and it's like your whole entire identity goes away because you're no longer in this position. and you don't know how to function. So you interpret literally everything as, reducing you, because you feel like, okay, well, I'm no longer, I'm no longer president of so and so and so. So who am I? Right. And so then everything in life after that just builds on there, because you haven't let go the impression that being president, you just said, instead of interpreting as, this is an experience, I was president, I learned from this, now I got to let it go. It leaves an imprint. Yes. And you bring that imprint to everything. Every
single moment. And Anthony, the name of the book is The Art of Being by Eric Fromm, ERICFROMM. We are only doing part 1. It's different if you're listening versus reading, but either way, it's part 1.
Called The Art of Being. That particular section too.
Yes. The name of the book and the section that we're going over is both entitled The Art of Being. Yeah. So Angelique says, treating people as tools to fulfill someone else's goals, finding fixes to the problem only superficially, so the tools can keep operating. The real fix is knowing self and being present, but that doesn't make good tools, right?
That's exactly right.
And that's because they're tools.
And let me tell you something. I always got to do the Rumi poem. I hope I can remember. I put my glasses on to read. I had to put glasses on to read the prayer.
Oh, good.
But what she's saying is because I think that we don't understand that we bought into the belief of our own, of us being economic tools, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what causes us to be anxious. In that Rumi poem, it says, when I run after what I think I want, my days are full of distress and anxiety. But when I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me without any pain. From this, I understand that what I want also wants me, is looking for me, attracting me. There is a great secret in this for anyone who can grasp it. And I think what we have to start to understand is that once we can understand that we have been perpetuating ourselves as economic tools, right, and start to deconstruct that, right? Because to me, that's what Fromm is really saying, is that stop, right? You've been perpetuating this yourself because you are in chains, and it's an inner chains, but because they're verbalizing outer liberation, you're not understanding that you're in inner chains. And it takes both outer liberation and inner liberation in your existence, in your connection with nature, in your interaction with the environment, right? For you to have an optimal life so that you can be an optimal being.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Take glasses off.
Yes, and we could talk 10 more days on this, because when you talked about the optimal being, then it says then that becomes subject to what your definition is of an optimal being, because everybody don't really want to do anything. And seeing that is one of the first things I kind of thought that stood out to me the most, but it was really like that economic piece of, bartering with people, in situations and pulling strings and all that stuff. But I thought about that part of it, and I'm like, okay, so what is an optimal being? And then, there's the religious aspect, there's the educational aspect, there's the domestic aspect, there's the relationship aspects, but then it comes back to our aim. Like, what are you aiming for? And a lot of people's like, well, the art of being, you're not supposed to aim for anything. So I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
If the art of being is true allowance, is that itself an aim?
Is the art of being true allowance, is that itself an aim? I would have to say that it is, right? I think that it is. I think that I think that it's definitely probably in a better direction as far as to reduce frustration and resistance in life. But I think that it is an aim. It's still
Okay.
it's still an aim. Yeah.
So let's take that and
Mhm.
attach it to the thing that we lack the most research on, which is oneself. Would it be fair to say that oneself is the aim?
I think it would be fair to say knowing oneself is the aim.
Okay. Okay.
Right? So I think that if you connect the allowance with knowing oneself, then that's when you can move from it being really an aim to a being, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think what it is that because we do buy into all of these systems, right? And they're beautiful systems. I got no problem with them. They're beautiful, right? But the beauty of the system is that on one hand, it gives you freedom. But on another hand, it imprisons you, right? And the problem is you're not aware of the imprisonment because you're so focused on the freedom, right? You know, in the book, he makes the point about just Western democracy. On one hand, let's take Africa, let's take Black people. On one hand, we were freed from slavery, right? And we were freed from imperialism in Africa. But at the same time, they gave us economic imprisonment. Right? They gave, if you go to Africa, you got, one of the richest natural continents of the world, but the people really are technically not enslaved by imperialism anymore, but they're economically dominated. You take us as people who our ancestors were enslaved here in America. We're no longer technically physically enslaved, but we're still inner enslaved. We're inner enslaved through economic tools, right? Because if you want to live in a certain house, you want to live in a certain neighborhood, you want to drive a certain car, right? You want your hair to look a certain way, you want to dress a certain way. All of these things are ways of imprisoning you, right? Especially if your entire being is tied to the possession of those things. See, it's one thing to drive a fancy car, right? But it's another thing if the fancy car is driving you. If you're driving a fancy car and you can lose it tomorrow and it's okay because you know that life is such a game that you can play the game and get the car back, then you don't grasp on it too tightly, right? But if having that car makes you who you are, and boy, if you lose it, you're about to lose your mind. That is when your passions, right? Your passions have outweighed your wanting to live. Because your naturalness about wanting to live have just been outweighed by your passions of thinking you needed these things in order to be worthy. See, you got to be careful of the layers of unworthiness being economic tools can bring to your mind and to your interpretations about life, right? Because one of the things I like to say, I know I've told you in 1,000 times, one of the practices that I practice, I practice it every day almost automatically now, right? Is that if something happens to me on yesterday at 5 o'clock, and it happened yesterday at 5 o'clock and it made me, let's say it made me angry, whatever it was. It was yesterday at 5 o'clock, Carrie made me angry. But today it is 2 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, first of all, Carrie's not even in my presence. Whatever that discussion was that made me angry is not going on right now, right? So why am I today still angry? The only reason why today I would still be angry is because I have the replay of an incident that occurred on yesterday, right? And if I dissect and reconstruct this particular moment, I will come to an intelligent reason with what's going on in my environment that I have no reason today to be angry. Because I'm not in an argument with Carrie today, right? I'm not angry about that conversation today because I'm not in it. If I'm angry about it today, it's only because I am watching the replay. And I think that that's what we got to stop. We've got to start to practice being in this moment and saying, okay, if in this moment Carrie said something that made me mad. I'm gonna be angry because she said something that made me mad. That's me being honest with the moment. But if that moment passes, and moments pass, and I'm now in a new moment, and I'm not having this fight with Carrie at the moment, then I have to let go of being angry in this new moment.
Right.
And we have to learn how to do that. And I think that that's also something that Fromm is basically saying, is that is how you reconstruct the inner and the outer, right, with nature and self-awareness. You have to become more self-aware and say, okay, I noticed that I stay angry about stuff that happened a year ago.
Right.
Right. A lot of times people don't understand that they're not angry about anything in today. That's some shit that happened a year ago, and you still carrying it. Let that shit go.
Let it go.
Right? Let it go. Right? Or at least say, okay, today I have no reason to be angry. Now, if that person come back in your world and they say something today, okay, then be angry. But today, right now, they're not here. They're not here. They're not in this moment. So let me just deal with this moment. You know what this moment is? This moment is pretty. It's blue skies outside. I've got a computer screen. I got no reason in this moment to be angry. Yeah. And I'm telling you, when you start to do that on a day-to-day basis, it empowers you to have emotional stability. Yes. Right? Right? And you start to be true to your emotions, because this is the reality. If I'm angry today about the anger from something from yesterday, this anger today is false. Yeah. It's a false anger. It's an illusion of anger. Yeah. Right? And one of the things you have to learn how to do is start to peel away the layers of illusion in our lives.
Yeah. That's it. And when we do that, we will realize that our aim is like a bullseye, and we're in the center, and we don't have to go anywhere. Exactly. We just have to be right here. Right here. Bullseye. You made it. Congratulations to everybody who's listening right now. You made it. You're exactly where you need to be to dial back in to what the only thing that matters. And that's you. And that's you right now in this very moment.
Yep. Yep.
The end.
Yep. I agree. I agree. Let me read my
read it, girl.
My little excerpt that I chose. All right, so I chose, it says, in all these teachings, inner liberation, freedom from the shackles of greed and illusions is inseparably tied to the optimal development of reason. That is to say, reason understood as the use of thought with the aim to know the world as it is, and in contrast to manipulating intelligence, which is the use of thought for the purpose of satisfying one's needs. This relation of freedom from greed and the primacy of reason is intrinsically necessary. Our reason functions only to the degree to which it is not flooded by greed. The person who is the prisoner of his irrational passions loses the capacity for objectivity and is necessarily at the mercy of his passions. He rationalizes when he believes he is expressing the truth.
That's so good. I'm missing y'all. Read this book. Okay, expand upon it. Give it to me, because let's have it. I can't wait.
I mean, I think we've really been kind of talking about it, but it really, when you really connect with these words, right? When you become a prisoner of your passions, right? I'm gonna talk for me. I have spent a lifetime being a prisoner of my own passions, right? Wanting something that doesn't want me, wanting somebody that don't want me, wanting a job that maybe I don't have anymore, wanting a life that maybe I'm not living at the moment. You can become so impassioned for something, right? And that passion can show up in being greedy. It can show up in being delusional. It can show up in hating, right? I call it the comparison trap, because a lot of times what happens is you're so focused on your passions that you miss just the pure sheer enjoyment of living,
Right.
of life in and of itself, of communing with nature, right? Of being nature, being a part of nature, being aware of your function in nature, right? Because that's the thing, and it's amazing that if you really want to have a little bit more power over your own life, it is you becoming more aware of yourself in nature.
Yes.
Right? And that is, and I love when he says he rationalizes when he believes he is expressing the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And to me, that's politics. That's the government, right? To me, that's religion. That's all of it, right? There's just rationalizing, right? You believe you're telling the truth, but all you're doing is rationalizing. Because the reality of it is, you got to give space to each individual person to have their experience in life. And I can take and learn from other people, right? But it's to learn, it's to pick up and carry the baton forward, right? And so I think that to me is what that excerpt is what stood out to me the most in that.
Why do we feel the need to rationalize the reason we want to live?
Why do we feel the need to rationalize the reason we want to live?
We all want to live. You know what I mean? Like, why do...
Well, I actually think that I get why we do, because this is the thing, we're powerful beings, right? And we have an ability that on a level that other animals don't, right? We get to think about the fact that we're thinking. We get to think about the fact that we're seeing. We get to rationalize, right? And I think it's because we have that power that it seems like we're thinking, well, to just live, it got to be more to this, right? Right. This is what makes religion so attractive to people, is because religion offers a reason. Right? I'm here because God wants me here. I'm here because Jesus died on the cross. I'm here because of whatever. This is where religion has its greatest power, is because we have this ability to reason, and it seems like just living for living's sake isn't enough, right? It's like we got to justify why we want to live, right? But I have to ask, does a lion justify why it roars? No, it just roars, right? Does the ocean justify why it never refuses a river? No, it just receives a river, right? I think that we want to have reason for our own existence, instead of letting our existence in connection with nature in itself be what it is. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's our own power that we sometimes we use against ourselves, really.
Absolutely, which goes right back to, you are not liberated as you think, because we try to put so much to everything. Like, though we say we don't know why the ocean refuses the river, we really don't, but I guarantee there's books on it.
Guarantee.
You know what I mean? We don't know why we're attracted to certain people, but there's books on it. Love language and this. I mean, like, there's so much knowledge. There's so many tactical things. We're just too smart for our own good, that we let it get in the way of just being.
Wait, you know what? It's not even so much that we're too smart for our own good. I think what happens is that if I observe something, right, and then I write it down, and let's say it's something that is magnetic, it really just attracts everybody. Oh, LaShawn got it. She's on the money, right? The problem is that you don't bring yourself to the information still, right? It's like we bring the absolute Shon to the information. And don't get me wrong, it may be great. I may have said something really great, But if you don't bring your own uniqueness to the information, I think you miss the point. And Fromm kind of talks about that too, right? That's one of the reasons why, for me, with I always go back to religion, but with religion, it's like nothing's wrong with it except for the fact that you presented it as an absolute. And when you presented it as an absolute, you eliminated my own interaction with the information, my own interaction with life, right? So I think that's really what the problem is. It's not, we put it in the book, and the book is good, right? Because you may have done some research. I don't want to have to do all that research. I can learn from you, right? But learning from you doesn't mean that you're presenting the absolute answer, right? It's just like raising a raisin. Let's go back to the example of raising a rose bush. Right? There is a lot of information on how to best raise grow a rose bush. Do this, don't do this. Do this, don't do that. However, it's not absolute. Right? It's not absolute. Because if you got a rose that started growing in a crooked way, right? Then you may have to adjust the rule about how the light should come onto the rose bush, right? It's all those little things of, I think that we allow other people's beautiful minds to create absolutes, and we forget that we have beautiful minds too.
That part, yeah, we all have beautiful minds, and we tend to use it for things that I'm not going to say are right or wrong, but is it expanding you? Are you participating in your own experiences? Because you're experiencing them, every moment. But we get to dictate how we experience them. Do we want to let the day touch us, or do we want to take the word of everybody else of how the day feels?
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the things that I started doing, and I tell you, I don't know about it. I'm just gonna tell you can do it, but life might shock the hell out of you. That's all I'm gonna say. but I have been doing it, right. Is that I start today, and I'll say, I died to who I was yesterday to be who I am today, and I welcome life in whatever way life shows up. And all I can say is that that is a freeing way of living, but life may show up in a way they be like, wait, life, whoa, right, hold up. That wasn't on the menu, right? That wasn't what I was thinking in the back of my head, right? So you have to be, even though you're saying life, I'm open, right? I want to be in a open vessel for life to flow through me. You have to understand that life may bring into your space something you wasn't expecting, and you have to just be present to that, right? And that's where the allowance come in at. You have to be present to it. You have to allow it and not get caught up in what the books say should be the right, the wrong, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? You just got to have that experience of the present. So
be receptive with your life.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to hear just your wrap up, the essence of the book. Just if people are coming in on the end and they're just, to let them know, y'all got to go back, y'all got to listen to this book, or read this book, or purchase this book. Actually, give the royalties that are due to this book. It's give the royalties
that are due to this book.
Yes, please.
I think this is one of those books that probably wasn't a bestseller at its time. Because a lot of times I think what happens is that we tend to promote and perpetuate what we consider celebrity. And sometimes when we do that because that's been pushed on us, right? It's been packaged, right? Because celebrity takes away your need to have to really bring your own individual interpretation to the situation, right? And so a book like this is one of them books that you have to, and like I said at the beginning, it is not an easy read. It is not an easy read, and I see why Carrie read it 4 times. I really do, actually, because he talks about so much that initially seems disjointed, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so your initial read, it could be like, okay, he's talking about happiness from a subjective, objective view. Then he flows into, trying to be, an optimal being and the liberation, inner liberation and outer liberation. But you don't really see initially or first read how it all kind of fits. But then after you kind of read it again and really let it think, like I probably will have more insight about this book next week because it would have because it would have had time to really plant seed and grow a little bit. But this book, the Art of Being, I think is definitely it's worth the read. It's in a slow read, right? It's a slow read because you want it to take you want to take it in. But I think the power of at least this first chapter is understanding that there is an art to living, right? And the art is being while living, as opposed to getting caught up in the having, because the having is really your known and unknown participation in being an economic tool. Right?
Goodness gracious.
Right?
It is.
Right?
Yes,
and
it
so,
is, right.
yeah. So, but yeah, so I do suggest that you read the book, right? Because I think it would also bring more awareness to some inner imprisonment that you have, that you are subjecting yourself to, and you are unaware that you are doing it to yourself. Yes. And that right there, that's facts right there.
Look, say that. Say that. That is exactly right. Yeah. Stop being a pawn in your own life, because when you really think about how you become a pawn in your own life, it's because you realize that pawn alone is just somebody's interpretation of a pawn. And we tend to just be what we interpret. The world says that this is what a Carrie that was born here, that did this and was raised this way should be. That's what that type of Carrie should be. And it's just not true.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's
not true.
It's just not true. And you have to find your own art of being in order to settle into that and then truly be. Because it is a process. It is some shedding. So there is action that has to be taken in order to not have to take action. Yeah. And it's kind of like this, reverse osmosis thing going on with your own person that you have to do in order to be. But there is some work that has to be done there. And, reading books like this and talking to people like Shon and digesting things, it's just necessary in order for you to find where your sweet spot is, because your sweet spot truly is just you and your purest nature. So that you can not be so affected by what comes and what goes. You can just say, that's life. Things are going to come. Things are going to go. Things are going to be this way and things are going to be that way. But when you start attaching the bad and the good part, it's just either this way or that way. And both of them are so beautiful. Everything is just so beautiful. So
I agree.
Thank you, everybody, for participating and talking. I'm sorry, I'll be like captivated with Shon. I'm like, that's so true. I can't even think about y'all, okay? I can't do it. My attention is split here. But thank you all so much for commenting. Read the book.
Yeah, read the book.
It is, if you don't purchase it, is on YouTube. But definitely download it, pay for it, read the book. It's an amazing book. And we're going to talk more about this not next Sunday, but the Sunday after next?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So tell them where they can find you, Shon.
Oh, they can find me on YouTube at Shon Speaks. You can find me on Instagram at FYTM4U. And on Clubhouse at Shon Speaks to You. Or you can just Google me, LaShawn Fleming Bruce, if you need a lawyer at the Fleming Bruce Law Firm. I'm everywhere. You can find me. I'm easily reachable. I'm accessible.
Texas streets.
I'm in them Texas streets all over. No.
Oh, God. And y'all don't forget about High Vibe coming.
High Vibe.
performing July 1st through the 4th. It is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The tickets are on sale. You can find information and everything at highvibeexpo.com. Or if you've got any questions, just
and you don't have to actually go to Myrtle Beach because you can do it online.
Exactly. Online. Shon's going to be participating online. She's going to be holding it down in the online space.
I can't wait.
It's going to be so
Wish I was there. I was going to be there with y'all, but next time.
Next time. I'm holding you to that. Y'all, it's 3:07 on the 23rd. Eastern Standard Time, that is. All right, guys, we're going to get on out of here. Enjoy the day, and I hope that you really enjoy discovering you.
Yeah,
there is an art to being, and I hope you find it.
And let life shock you some.
Yeah,
let life shock you, and don't be boxed in that the shock should be wrong or right. Just be shocked and enjoy the shock, and be like, oh wow, okay, all of life converged right now to shock me. So let me enjoy it. Ashe.
Ashe, ashe.
Ashe.